Hello, this is the scariest room in my house. Originally my friends and I thought we might play some horror games down here, but as I can only stay down here for just about the length of one intro monologue, we absolutely could not do that. So we're going to play upstairs instead. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and tonight we're playing Hako Onna and the Exorcism at the House of Monkton Falls. There we go, back in the safest room in the house, the games room. Horror has always been a genre that absolutely fascinates me. I love it. Films, games, books, the whole lot. But when it comes to horror board games, I've always found it a little bit difficult to get a heightened sense of fear in the same way that you can when you watch a horror movie or in particular play a horror video game. So my friends and I wanted to see if we could heighten that level of fear even just a touch by playing a couple of horror board games. What we decided to play are two games that are linked by a loose theme. They are about sprawling, classic, haunted mansions. If you're familiar with the films and Netflix shows of writer-director Mike Flanagan, then you'll know exactly what we're looking for. And so, the first title we chose is an indie game launched via Kickstarter in 2018, The Exorcism at the House of Monkton Falls. Designed by David Tepfer, Monkton Falls was the first title from The Screaming Brain, an indie games publisher based in Vermont. The game has a really amazing art style. It kind of reminds me of the various illustrated fiction books that film director Tim Burton has released over the years, like The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy. There is also a hint of the art style of Edward Monkton, a pen name of UK artist Giles Andrea. I've no idea if there is any relationship between the two beyond the coincidence of the Monkton name, but I kind of like to imagine there is, if only because I can see the Penguin of Death making an appearance in the board game. Before you can start play, you have to randomly choose your character from a range of excellently illustrated investigator cards. Each investigator has their own special ability, and most importantly, some of them are dogs. They also tell you where in the mansion you'll start play. And the mansion itself is a thing of beauty. With yet more great art, the mansion is made up of room cards laid out with the foyer at the bottom, and then random cards in rows of 3, 5, 5, and 3, with an attic placed at the top. This gives the mansion an expansive and irregular feel, and means that you'll never see the same layout twice. To further up the randomization, you will always get 12 of the same starting rooms, like the kitchen and the library, but the rest of the rooms come from a second deck of unusual and spooky spaces, like the pitch black void. Each room offers a special action that your investigators can take as they move around the mansion trying to collect tools, complete tasks, and score enough exorcism points to lay the ghosts to rest. But you have to move quick, because you're on the clock. You see, this mansion is haunted by 3 ghosts who move around attacking your investigators: the Wraith, the Bull, and the Devourer. And if they are not exorcised by sunrise, the mansion will be lost to the other side forever. In every player's turn, you reduce the amount of time you have left by ticking over the pips on 8 dice. These are your clock. Each dice is 1 hour, each face is 10 minutes. So 6 pips means 60 minutes left. 1 pip means just 10 minutes left. I found this mechanic to be really fun. It gave time a very tangible feel, and you could see it slipping through your fingers as you're turning over the dice throughout the game. My friends weren't quite as convinced. Along with a couple of dice icons on some of the other cards and rooms in the game, they kind of got a bit confused about why the clock was dice and you didn't roll dice to randomize room placements or anything like that. So there's a few things that could be a bit clearer and a bit tighter in this. That said, we had so much fun playing this game. I played as a telepathic baby, but I got attacked by the Wraith almost immediately and wounded. Fortunately, you have a couple of backup characters who wait in the foyer who you can take over if your main character gets taken out. Now, we were able to recover the telepathic baby, and my brother took over the character and then was able to save the day later on in the game. It was absolutely amazing. I've never said the words telepathic baby quite so much, but it was fantastic. There were a couple of rules clarifications that clearer writing or a stronger FAQ would have helped us with, but overall we had a lot of fun and it was a great gameplay experience. I think a second edition of this game could really tighten things up, maybe make it a little bit harder, because as a co-op game you don't want it to be too easy to win. But we definitely will be playing this again. It's going to be a keeper. I think it's a shame that the game didn't perform better on Kickstarter in 2018. There were a couple of stretch goals for new monsters and new cards that didn't get released because they didn't hit those targets. And then that second edition that I think would be very beneficial is very unlikely. I took a look at some of Screaming Brain's socials recently and they've been super quiet for a year or so, which I think is a real shame. So that was our first game, a very gentle step into the horror realm. For our second game, we wanted to up the fear factor, so we decided to play Hako Onna. There is no time for quirky ghosts or friendly co-op play now. This is pure J-horror scares. Developed by Japanese game designer Go Ijin, the game is on its 4th edition in Japan, and it was released in English by WizKids in 2016. This is the board game equivalent of films like The Ring, Grudge, and Dark Water. The name Hako Onna translates as woman in a box, and the background to the game's story is suitably bleak. A young girl was tragically killed after being stuffed into a box by her father, who was actually trying to hide her from some bad guys that he was in trouble with. Her father was taken away by the men, never to return, and the girl's ghost now haunts the abandoned mansion. One group of players takes on the role of paranormal investigators, who have arrived at the mansion to find out what all the supernatural fuss is about. They take turns moving around the rooms of the mansion and looking into the dark crevices, cupboards, and boxes to see if they can find clues and tools that will help them put the ghost to rest. The investigators build out the map of the haunted mansion during setup by placing random tiles across the multiple floors of the building. So you end up with a multi-room map, kind of like in Exorcism at the House of Monkton Falls, but unlike Monkton Falls, the investigators enter the mansion with special equipment. These include things like mobile phones to better communicate with, or dowsing rods that allow you to get the ghost to reveal their location. If the dowsing rods are used, you actually have to indicate what floor you're on by doing dowsing rod-like motions with your fingers. It's really themey and really fun. And yeah, that's right, one player plays the Hako Onna herself. The ghost player doesn't get a regular turn. Instead, they wait patiently whilst the investigators take their goes. But before an investigator can do anything, they have to attempt to place a small disc on top of a tower of other discs. This is made more difficult by the fact that those discs have a small plastic blep attached, meaning that they don't stack easy. If the tower falls, then the investigator just made some noise, and the ghost has heard it. The Hako Onna immediately gets to take a turn. During the Hako Onna's go, they can move around the mansion, moving the tools and clues everywhere they step. And all of this is done whilst the investigators' players have to sit with their eyes closed. Literally, the ghost player is moving things around the board, and there's just a load of players sat with their eyes closed, having no idea what is happening. It really amps up the fear and the sort of anticipation, because you don't know if you're about to see the ghost in your next turn, or if they've moved some of the clues that you were relying on finding. If you ever see the ghost, your character dies instantly and you've lost the game. Because of this, the game is massively skewed in the Hako Onna player's favour. They have incredibly powerful abilities that get unlocked the longer the game goes on. They move in secret and they can play the waiting game. The investigators, meanwhile, die if they look at the wrong hidden tile, die if they use the wrong item in the same room as the ghost, and die if their phone goes off. They have to either uncover the 3-digit code to the safe in order to find the keys that will let them unlock the back door and escape, or work out the Hako Onna's weakness from 3 possible vulnerabilities and then find the one tool that they can use to defeat the ghost. But that is one shot. If they try and use the wrong tool, then they die. If they use the right tool on the wrong space, then it's gone forever. There is another way to win though. The investigators can give the Hako Onna the piece she lost in life. If they can find her doll and reunite it with the ghost's remains, then the Hako Onna will release them from the mansion. The rulebook makes it clear that the Hako Onna player has to act like a GM and ensure that there is a good flow to the game. If you play this competitively, you would absolutely destroy the investigators very quickly and no one would have any fun. But if you draw it out, then the tension really mounts for both ghost and and investigator players. The investigators basically spend the entire game in a state of anxious confusion, not quite knowing if the tile they're about to look at has a ghost in it, or if it's going to be the one thing they need for their final escape. I can absolutely see this becoming another perennial favourite when my gaming group wants to get out of their comfort zone and into the cupboard under the stairs. So those were a couple of horror games that me and my friends played. They were great fun, both of them, but very different in tone. The House of Monkton Falls was a really fun cooperative game, beautiful art, very themey. It really did bring to life that horror mansion, but in a quite gentle kind of way. Whilst Hako Onna was a super intense, super scary experience. It really pushed all of the players out of their comfort zone, except for the ghost players, and they had fun as well, but in just a completely different way. I would definitely recommend both if you get the chance, and you can just slide along that spectrum of gentle co-op fun to really intense, but still fun scares. Thank you very much for watching. I am Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery. I am very thankful that we did not decide to play downstairs, because I really was terrified.